Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Episode 254, See You on the Other Side, the return to Hawaii, as we bring on Lopaka Kapanui, the native Hawaiian who runs Mysteries of Hawaii Ghost Tours. He's a writer, actor, and master storyteller who joins us today from the island of Oahu. Aloha, Lopaka, and mahalo for joining us today to talk about the upcoming Hawaii Paracon.
Aloha, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. And Mike, your Hawaiian has improved exponentially since the last time we spoke.
Excellent. I've been working on it.
Aloha.
Aloha, Allison. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I love talking about Hawaii Paracon. It's like no other paranormal conference.
You know what we need, Allison? We need 1 year at this Hawaii Paracon for you to bring a First Nations person to show a real, what do they call it, a smudging?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I've been speaking at a lot of conferences, and I did bring one of my friends along. He was also speaking there, and it was great because I was there talking about traditional monsters in the Midwest, and then he was there to talk about the Bigfoot in his heritage. He's from the Pawnee and Seminole tribes, and he did smudge. He did do some traditional drumming, and it was really interesting for the people attending the conference. Because,
somebody doesn't know what smudging is,
yeah,
why don't we tell them what is smudging? Because when I think about smudging, it's just I'm smearing something, like what is smudging?
Yeah, it's not smudging chocolate all over your face like you might be used to, Mike.
I'd like to be smudging chocolate over my face right now.
But smudging is a traditional practice, and I don't know exactly which tribe it started with, but it's an intertribal tradition right now where so many tribes use it. And I know that the tribes in the Midwest, that they have 4 medicines, and the medicines are sage. That might be that's one of them. That's probably the one that you're most familiar with, because on some of the ghost hunting shows, they will burn sage, and they don't really explain it, but that it's one of 4 medicines that you can use. But
as a musician, I'm familiar with the 4 medicines. Then parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme.
No.
Isn't that how it is?
No, in this case, it's sage, sweetgrass, cedar, and tobacco. So they burn the sage. It has medicinal qualities. It clears the air of negative energies. It's supposed to be a banishment to any evil forces, and so that's what they're using those medicines for. If you're upset, if you're having a disagreement with someone, so I should be burning sage a lot if you know my personality. But
you get upset.
Yes, so sage is the one you burn for that. Now, cedar is similar. You can also make a tea of cedar if you have a cold. It's good for your respiratory system, but also you burn it. It makes a cool, like, crackling sound. It also smells very refreshing, and also sweetgrass. That's my favorite because that has such a pleasant and just welcoming smell, and that is
like skunky.
No, that
okay,
like,
that's a different kind. As a musician, once again, it's a different kind of sweetgrass.
Right, that's the dank nug, Mike. Don't get it. Don't get it.
All right, man.
Mixed up for sweetgrass. So sweetgrass, you burn it. It's like the opposite of sage in a way. Like sage is banishing and cleansing away things, and sweetgrass is to bring bring the positive energies into your life. And it sure smells awesome. And then tobacco, you only burn it like when you're praying because the smoke is supposed to take your prayers up to the creator. So those are the 4 medicines. But we need to talk about traditional Hawaiian practices.
Well, that's what I want to say. So, like, what in Hawaiian is similar to that? Because Lopaka, you just said like, oh, let's bring over a somebody from an American tribe and like show them that. But anything in Hawaiian that is similar, where let's say you have a place with some bad juju or something like that, and while they might burn sage here, and that's a traditional thing, and it's been bastardized into people on ghost shows being like, we totally got to clear this place with some sage, man. What, is there anything in Hawaii that they do for that same kind of effect?
We know a lot of it has to do primarily with the people who are occupying the space. So the way I was taught, before the cleansing of the house, the business, the school can start, you have to cleanse the occupants or the people who work there. And that begins by cleansing from the feet up to the shoulders, the top of the head. So a lot of symbols behind that. And then it goes on to asking the protective deities of the place to, and talking about positive and negative deities, inviting them to come and participate in this cleansing of these people in these places. And what a lot of people don't realize is that in certain Hawaiian chants, when you ask, the light and the dark to participate, sometimes the dark entities are not happy about it, but because you asked, they're obliged to help out. And that's one of the bare basic ways of doing something like that.
That almost makes me think about how people, talking about cross-cultural things, how the people that used the Lesser Key of Solomon, that grimoire of spells and stuff that was based out of Christian mythology, that was, they wrote that in the 17th century. And the spells they would use, they would call upon angels sometimes for help, but they would also call upon demons to help. And they would use the fact that Solomon, who built the temple, the first temple in Jerusalem, that he had used demons to help him build a temple. Like he had some kind of seal that was able to get So the thing is, even though they were evil entities, they had to work for you no matter what. And it's that same kind of thing. It's like, all right, well, we're washing people off here and we need some help from the good guys. We need some help from the bad guys. And the bad guys are so polite. They're like, can't we just eat his soul?
I know. I was going to bring pestilence to these people. Oh my God.
And so I love that there. And I also love the interesting thing where instead of, like you said, instead of cleansing the space, you're cleansing the people who work there. Or the people who are coming in. So that's a different approach as well, I think, is that idea that it's not necessarily the space that has the bad juju or whatever, or things like that associated with it. It's maybe the baggage that people bring.
Oh, definitely,
that comes in there.
And that too, I mean, we, when we're smudging, we smudge a room, but we also smudge the people in it. So it's called smoking off. So you just, if you're upset, you smoke yourself off. So
hell yeah, you do.
Yeah. So we're not talking about the dank nug, Mike, although it is legal in both Michigan and Illinois now. So and it's decriminalized in Minnesota. We're surrounded, Mike, in Wisconsin.
Right. We're surrounded by stoners. You better watch your kids. But you said that with smudging, Allison. Yeah. And this is something I always found fascinating. And I found this fascinating the first time that we ever talked to somebody on our old podcast, Paranormal Wisconsin, where we talked to Jeffrey Seelman from Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that
Milwaukee exorcist
and stuff. But he's like, oh, yeah, well, you'd be surprised how many places call me to clear buildings. And so when you guys did smudgings, did you do them at the school you worked at and things?
Yes. Okay. And there was one time where a lot of the people felt like there was a trickster at play on the grounds and in the building and affecting some of the employees. Even myself, I had a couple experiences and, I don't know what to make of them. And it wasn't malevolent in my case. It was just kind of annoying because I broke my ankle as a result. But it was also kind of joking with me in some of the things that it did. But in response to that,
breaking your
one
ankles,
Saturday,
that's a really mean joke.
well, yeah, but I mean, it made other jokes with me that weren't mean. They were just kind of, it was funny. It was funny.
Sure.
So
You had an abusive relationship with the trickster spirit.
I guess. But when you get hurt like that, it can teach you things, and in that case, it taught me that people there at that time were willing to help me when I couldn't, like pick up my kids from like art or gym. People, other teachers stepped up and helped me. So it was just wonderful to see that community support and to experience that. So maybe that's what I was supposed to experience from it. And
you guys did a smudging, like to kind of clear it out.
yeah,
Say, hey,
and
trickster, like, we don't need you this
actually,
week.
we had somebody come in and talk to us who works in the community, and he claims that he actually clears houses of demons, and he told us some really dramatic stories, and I'm like, oh man, this is just like supernatural. I mean, what is going on here? And I couldn't believe it was like an in-service where like the teachers after school, we're usually learning about different educational techniques, and here we're learning about banishing demons. And then he came in one Saturday, and they actually had another medicine, which I can't recall what it was, but they were burning, not just the standard 4 medicines that we talked about, but they brought out some big guns as well. And
The dank
they
hug.
spent hours and hours going through the building and then going around the perimeter of the building. So it was something that was taken very seriously.
Well, I find that fascinating, and I'm interested in the Hawaiian tradition of the trickster, because the trickster is something you
Yes.
find, across cultures. Obviously, the famous one that a lot of people are familiar with from African folklore is Anansi, and he's an American Gods, Mr. Nancy.
Yeah,
and
and I see
stuff
the
like that.
spider.
Right, and Nancy the spider is a trickster spirit, and so like Lopaka, is there any specific in Hawaii that is a similar kind of energy or a similar kind of spirit that you guys might have to smoke out?
We there's that word again, smoke out. Yeah. We have lesser deities in our culture that are known as tricksters, like kupueo, but those things are basically meant to do, not so malevolent things to you. Like if you're hunting or you're swimming, you'll hear voices or things will happen to sort of lead you away and get you lost, where you get found eventually. But our most famous trickster is the demigod Maui. And the great thing about Maui is that when he played tricks, it was only on the ruling class. He never played tricks on common people. It was always on the ruling class or other gods. Which is, as a kid, he used to get in trouble all the time. His mother was Hina, the goddess of the moon, and he had 4 older brothers who were also named Maui, but there are different epithets applied to their names. And so he would do things like, when his mother would hang his brother's clothes on the line, he'd take a shark tooth and, cut holes all over it. So when they wore their loincloth, everything else was hanging out. Stuff like that.
Interestingly, speaking of getting lost, there was that tourist recently who got lost in Maui. Well, actually, she did live there, but she was an implant, like most people in Hawaii are. People that are
A
attracted.
transplant, not an
Yeah.
implant is something an alien puts in you.
Okay, all right. Okay, a
Right.
transplant. But anyway, she went for a hike and got lost for was it a month? It was a while.
She was missing 16 days
16
in
days.
Maui forest, and I mean she was a yoga instructor, so I mean she could stretch pretty well, but she fractured her leg in the Macau. Oh, crap. I guess my Hawaiian has not gotten better. I'm sorry.
It'll take a while, but you'll be okay.
In the Makawa Forest Reserve, and she ate insects to survive.
Well, here's the funny thing.
You're in Hawaii. I mean, come on. It's not like she's in the Arctic. I'm sorry. Go on, Lopaka.
Well, the funny thing is she left the car with keys in the ignition and the cell phone in the car. So what was she going to do? Was she going to, use the bathroom real quick? Could she not hold it? Was she going to meet somebody that no one else was supposed to know about?
Right.
But
Ooh, a tryst.
right, but her claim is she got turned around and lost her way.
But sometimes too, though, like she is a yoga instructor.
Right.
So, I mean, she's all hippity dippity, and she might be like, I just want to go out in the woods without my phone and just make out with a tree.
She
Or,
wanted to commune with nature.
Right.
what she wants to commute with nature. But that's a cool story. But a cooler story is that she was secretly meeting her man, or like some secret man out there.
Right.
And then she didn't bring her phone because she didn't want her boyfriend or whatever to find out, like tracking her GPS.
Well, we're going to get in so much trouble when this thing airs.
That's all right. She's not my yoga
Right.
instructor.
And I'm not saying that's what happened, just throwing out examples.
I am.
So forgive me, local
Well,
community.
No,
Could she have been fairy led? Could
she might have been.
could that be what happened?
I mean, like Mike just said, she's hippity dippity. She's into the yoga stuff, the metaphysical stuff. She might have made contact with something that just started talking to her, and she got turned around, lost her way.
well, speaking of fairies, now there's a specific Hawaiian tradition about fairies too. Isn't there? And I mean, we may have touched them before, but it's always good to bring them into it. Like whenever you can bring the fairies in, let's do it. And so, what are Hawaiian fairies?
Well, the closest I think we can come to, and if we're speaking in terms of, Lord of the Rings and Peter Pan and all that stuff, that would be the Menehune, our Hawaiian version of the little people.
So, the little people of Hawaii, is there anything specific that that they do that maybe like the fairies that may be from different kinds of mythologies? Like maybe let's find one thing that's a lot like other kinds of mythologies, and then one thing that's like this was what makes them way different.
Well, I'm going to just interject there a little bit. Like one thing that I've found is, and this really has more to do with the night marchers. And what I was surprised about that tradition of the night marchers, which I'm going to have Lopaka explain because he can do it so much better. I know it's not really related to the Menehune, but it sounds a lot like the European tradition of the wild hunt, where you had processions of fairies that would come through at night in certain areas. And and sometimes they were fairies, but sometimes they were also processions of the dead as well. And you had to make yourself scarce because it wouldn't be, you might get taken away by them if they find you outside in the night. So the wild hunt reminds me so much of the procession of the night marchers.
Oh yeah. Well, there are Menehune processions as well, but yeah.
Really? So tell us all about that, the different types of processions, because it really, when I made that connection, it really kind of blew me away. I'm like, wait a second, that sounds just like the wild hunt.
Right, and there's a 6 p.m. procession every night of the Hawaii Paracon where you're going to see them for yourself.
Oh yeah, that's a guarantee. The Menehune are supposed to be. They look like you and me, except they're a lot smaller, and they're noted for achieving great architectural feats in one night. Nobody's supposed to be around. There is a heiau, a Hawaiian temple on the island of Molokai that's called Ili Ili Opai, which means the small stones of the shrimp. And the legend says there was a Menehune king on the island of Molokai, and one day he hungers for opai or shrimp, and so he orders his Menehune people to get him as much shrimp as possible, and he gathers it on this temple and starts to eat all the shrimp and won't share with anyone. And of course, and that actually becomes his own undoing. Now, the thing about this Hawaiian temple on Molokai, Ili Ili Opai, is that it's a very, very powerful temple. If you're not from here and you go see it, you just think you're looking at a pile of rocks. But it's built over some sort of place that has mana, or it's a power spot. I don't know, electromagnetic field. A friend of mine, John and Lauren, were here a couple of months ago. We were supposed to do a recording session of Hawaiian chants, and I wasn't able to do it. I was really sick. But they went to go visit Molokai to get sound bites to add on to this thing we were supposed to do, and they went on to this temple. And I remember Lauren saying that just all of a sudden her ears started to ring, all the sound stopped. The heat was gone. And she said it was like she was not in this day and age, like everything had just suddenly changed. And then she just had this
Wow.
overwhelming feeling that she wasn't supposed to be there, and then she left.
Are you talking about like silence in the environment, like no
Yeah,
bird
it's
sounds,
that
etc.?
silence that just freaks you out because it's just so quiet.
Yeah, so there's an investigator named Jenny Randalls, and she's documented cases, especially where UFOs are involved, but other things as well, where it's just like the environment goes dead, and she's coined the term the Oz effect for it. You know, that feeling of presence, and also like something has really changed in the environment around you.
I get that when I listen to Ozzy too. Like especially Diary of a Madman. Like that's just a great album.
So let's hear more about the Menehune and their professions. Let's just tune out Mike.
I was going to say she completely ignores Mike, which, by the way, Mike is.
Yep. Well, that's what
Yeah.
I do because he's my little brother. I've been doing that pretty
Yeah.
much since I've been
Right.
alive.
Well, which, by the way, Mike, is a great album.
Right. Thank
Right.
you, Lopaka.
Yeah, this could go in a whole different direction. So, the Menehune also have particular kinds of foods they like. So, I've told if you believe your business or your church or house has Menehune activity, here's the type of foods you have to leave, to appease them. You can't make them go away, but they won't be as destructive as they were before. And according to one Hawaiian family, there is a Menehune procession that starts from a place in South Kona in Ka'u on the Big Island called Manuka Park. And the procession goes up the island chain all the way to Kauai, where it concludes. And so the story is one part of this Menehune procession stops for a break at the Pali Lookout here in Oahu. And so this family on the Big Island has another family here, and their responsibility since time without beginning, I guess, was to go to this place where the Menehune take a break and set out mats and food, and then they leave because the Menehune don't like people to watch them eat. And so those foods are supposed to be a certain type of a starchy banana, a certain type of fish called, oh my God, I'm a bad Hawaiian.
Oh, don't be that hard on
It's
yourself.
called kala. Yeah, there's just so many words. And I think their dessert is it's made from the arrowroot plant, and it's sort of like a starchy. What's the best thing? Not yogurt. Tapioca.
Oh, tapioca, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. But their main thing is shrimp.
But the fact is that like that food gets involved too. And
Right.
food
Yeah.
is always something that's involved with the Fae.
Yeah, and they, similar practices were in Europe where they would leave out bowls of cream and other things for the fairies. And I had a couple that called me recently and told me their story of a Fae encounter, but it didn't seem malevolent. I said, you can leave out some cream for them, and then they were like, well, we've got cats, so that's not going to work. So leaving out food gifts for them is something that's been done world over.
Well, don't we all leave? I mean, everybody with a kid leaves out cookies and milk for Santa Claus on
right.
Christmas Eve
The big
for
elf.
the jolly old elf.
Right. And then the other thing is we also, way back many episodes ago, talked to Fortean Jeffrey Holder about the Fae, and he was talking about how there were these fairy paths, and then you could get in trouble, like you accidentally built your home in the middle of a fairy path, and then so people, in order not to enrage the fairies, would cut part of their house off. I mean, that's how serious it was, just so they wouldn't infringe or interfere with the fairy procession. So, another commonality there. Didn't you have a story where there was a house that had some Menehune, and there were footprints in the pool and footprints like going up the wall and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. Mike's not privy to that information.
Yeah.
Was this a guy from Colorado? His name was Brian, and we worked together. He was a student at the university at the time, and he also worked at the Old American Airlines check-in desk at the airport. And he told me one night, came home late from work, very tired, and it was a thing where they're all sharing rooms. And he said he just lay down on the couch, just to decompress. And he said suddenly, this thing when you're sleeping, you see this shadow pass in front of your eyes, even though your eyes are closed. So he said that happened. He opened his eyes and he just sat up on the couch. And he said in front of him, the wall in front of him, there were these little footprints going up the wall. And then it went across the ceiling right above him. And he said there's these little dots where the footsteps stopped and then it continued down the other side of the wall. And he said, the real reason why he woke up is not only that shadow passing in front of his face while his eyes were closed, but he felt something tickle his nose. And he said he looked at those little dots again and they looked like, toe prints. And he thought to himself, that almost looks like something stood on its tippy toes upside down on the ceiling, and was trying to like tickle my nose.
What an image.
Yeah. And he said, a short time later, there were those same footprints in the swimming pool. There's also a woman here. I know her by the name of Suze. She's been a great friend. She owns a place out in Hawaii Kai. It's right on the ocean, and it's called the Bear Estate. And it's a really quaint, almost like a 2-story cottage. It's got a fireplace, front yard, and there's the beach. And she's invited me there several times to do ghost stories. And on more than one occasion, I've asked to use her place so I could tell ghost stories. And I always ask her what the fee is, and we kind of work it out. So this last time, about 3 years ago, we went there to tell 13 Japanese ghost stories by candlelight.
I'm in.
And by the last candle, when you blow it out, someone's supposed to die. You're supposed to see a ghost. And so,
Wait,
it was
somebody's supposed to die. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, the real tradition is in Japan is 100 ghost stories with 100 candles, but I don't have that kind of time.
Nobody does. That's
Right.
just sad that these days go by so fast. We don't have time for 100 ghost stories. Come on, we're not doing something right.
Right. If you tell 100 ghost stories, of course somebody's going to die at the end because it takes forever.
Yeah. Well, I did do 100 ghost stories like 10, 12 years ago. And we got to the last ghost story. We're going to burn out the last candle. It's in a cafeteria at a community college. And the last candle's blown out. The lights are off. Everybody's like, what in their pants. And the cafeteria lights go on because the custodian's like, okay, that's the last candle. Get out. So we didn't get to see anybody die. Didn't get to see any ghosts.
All right.
But the custodian almost killed you.
That's going to change at Hawaii Paracon 2019.
Yeah.
Right.
What was the story with this lady?
Well, after the 13 stories and candles were done, she came out and gave everybody ice cream and, soda. And we're all sitting down hanging out. She says, oh, by the way, Lopaka, I forgot to show you something. And she shows me a couple of pictures that were taken in the house, years ago. And she goes, so what do you see over here? I said, oh, that looks like little shadows going up the stairs. She goes, I have Menehune in my house. I've had him here for, since I was a kid. And my husband is a non-believer, retired attorney, but he finally had his Menehune encounter. And so the house is used for weddings, traditional, Japanese weddings. And so she's going on about all these Menehune stories, and her husband's corroborating the stories. And as they're talking, I'm sitting outside on the lawn, and I happen to glance into their living room, and there's this table. And the way it's facing me toward me like an angle, sort of like a diamond shape, and the lamp is on top of it. And the table's a dark brown color, which explains why I didn't see it right away. And so how you sort of like stare, at a certain place while someone's talking. I'm doing that, and I'm looking at this table, and all of a sudden I see something lean to my left, and I see these eyes blink, and then I see me, and then it just really quick just crawls toward the fireplace.
What did it look like?
I saw it looked like a man with smooth dark chocolate skin. He had no hair, and I'm getting goosebumps even now. And he just took off. He just crawled.
And how large was he?
He had to be no taller than one of my grandsons, who's less than 4 feet tall, but completely formed, mature human being.
And so he blended into the brown table almost. That's why you didn't notice him at first.
Yeah. And as I'm seeing this is what Sue says. A lot of times you can't see them because they know how to blend in.
Right.
Yeah.
Camouflage.
And so I said, well, have you done anything to cleanse the place? She goes, no. She goes, why would I do that? This is their place.
Right. So
They've
so
been
she
here.
has a good relationship with them, it sounds like.
Yeah, and she says time and again she'll leave out certain things for them, and then she says, but they like ice cream.
Oh, yeah, that is so cute.
Well, don't we all?
So these stories, there's a lot of surprising similarities cross-culturally
Yeah.
and, through the centuries. So, when you come to Hawaii Paracon, that's kind of my wheelhouse. That's what I talk about, these similarities and what they say about the actual phenomena themselves. If you experience these things across time, across cultures, then it probably looks like there's something to the actual phenomena, you would think. So I'll be talking more about that at Hawaii Paracon. But let's get into it because although there's these similarities, there's, some incredible things that you can experience at Hawaii Paracon that you're not going to experience anywhere else. So let's get into some of those things.
That's what I think is the most interesting thing. It's not just that there are similarities, because that's cool, but it's like that. I mean, these places are islands. We talk about Hawaii as an island. It's out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, like Australia and its marsupials, or Madagascar and the lemurs. And it's like,
Right.
well, yeah, they're kind of like monkeys, but they've had 100,000 years to do their own thing. And I mean, I guess kangaroos are like nothing else, so I don't even know what to say. Like, I guess kangaroos are kind of like deer that jump, and because they've had 100,000 years to do something like on their own to do something else. And I feel like Hawaii is the same kind of thing, because we have all these similar things that similar in the beginning, but there's a point where everything diverges, and that's when it gets extra fun, because it's like we celebrate our similarities at the same time we celebrate our differences, and that's why it makes it fun to explore different cultures and different things. And Hawaii Paracon is the perfect place to do that, because you get a blending of all kinds of stuff. And so, so let's go through the dates again real quick, because it's going to be just a couple weeks in July, right? I mean, a couple weeks in the future in July. So what are the dates?
July 19th, 20th, and 21st.
All right. So you get there on the 19th. Normally we get to a Paracon. So we just did a Paracon this weekend, and it started like the best way a Paracon can start, with my band playing. But
Of course.
But like, let's say you didn't have a sweet Wisconsin rock band playing. Like, what would be the second coolest thing you could do?
Second coolest thing you could do would be to have Paul McCartney show up. That would be awesome.
You're right.
What actually is going to happen is, for the participants and for people who are attending, at 6:00 in the morning at the Shriners Beach Home on the other side of the island, there's a special place where we're going to have a morning pikai, and that's a cleansing that we do in the ocean. And traditionally, it's used to start things off on the right foot when you're undertaking a particular kind of journey. And so that sets the tone for the Paracon itself. And then that evening, we're going to have a traditional paina. People have this thing called a luau, and the luau, the word has been associated, with the touristy luau thing, the
grass skirts
and
and things like that, and drinking pineapple margaritas or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started, Mike. God.
Fair enough.
And what's going to happen is at this paina, there's going to be a full Hawaiian protocol where the people who are entering the space have to have a representative to offer a traditional Hawaiian chant. The people inside who are receiving us will have a representative to answer the chant in a particular manner. And then there's going to be a really short exchange of an ava ceremony just between the two people. And then we go in and we have.
Wait, what's ava?
Ava's a Piper mesentium. It's mashed into a powdery form from the roots. And Allison will tell you when you drink it, it mellows you out, kind of numbs your mouth for a little while.
Yeah, it's totally mellow, and actually kind of numbs you out. Like my lips always get numb.
It's like the 12 demon bag from Big Trouble in Little China,
I
where
don't
he's
even know
like,
what that is, but
But more.
it's
look
it's
up 12
kava
demon bag.
kava. It's also known as kava or kava kava.
Right.
But ava is what they call it in Hawaii. So yeah, it's a traditional drink, and it's really I think you know some people don't like the taste, but I think that it tastes really earthy, and it's a way to connect yourself back to the earth.
And the reason
All right.
we're having the Ava ceremony as part of this protocol before the big feast is that we're also inviting the gods to participate. So there's going to be certain sort of food items that will be left on the side for the gods to, to partake of, and that shows that we're not only honoring the people who are there, but also our ancestors and our gods.
Well,
And
that
I
sounds
think
like a cool way to start things going.
Oh yeah, and for Allison in particular, I've already asked for a vegetarian menu, a vegan
Oh,
menu.
thank you. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. Well, I can always be counted on to eat a lot of sweet potato and poi. So
Oh yeah.
that's sweet potato in particular is one of my favorites.
Right.
So that's like, so
And
it's like a traditional Hawaiian feast kind of kicks things off.
Yeah. Right foot, right energy, right feel. And then Saturday, Sunday are the presentations, the breakout workshops, and lots of fun.
Well, okay, and let's talk about some of the speakers you have. First of all, I love the idea of starting it off with some kind of traditional ceremony, or even if it's not even traditional, if it's a ceremony that you developed and created, or take bits of tradition and add your mustard to it, that kind of thing. Because I really feel that we talked about this in our episode about May Day this year, that the ritual of something it can completely change how you approach everything coming up, because surroundings can help, but getting yourself in the right mindset with a ritual. When we talked to Dean Radin about his book, Real Magic, he said that, it was like, well, you can't just believe. Yeah. For magic things to work, you have to do the ritual. You have to do the ceremony. And for some reason, it's that ritual, it's that ceremony that puts us in the right mind frame for creating the kind of experience that we're hoping to create. So I love that you guys are starting out with just like, okay, we're going to talk a little bit. Like, hell no, we're going to break out the ava and the sweet potato. We're going to shove some sweet potato in my sister's face. And we're going to have this feast, and we're going to say like, oh, here's some stuff for the gods. Here's some stuff for our ancestors. And we're going to go in with the full ritual and the full ceremony that means something, and not just a show on for the for Whitey or whatever, but like,
Yeah.
something that means something, and then it puts everybody in the right mindset for the kind of stuff that you're talking about the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. And that's just, it's all inclusive. It's, it's something that everyone can participate in. And that's the whole point of ceremonies like that. It's like I explained earlier, everyone and everything, seen or unseen, participates, and they become a part of it.
Right. It's a community. You're building community with ceremonies such as that. Now, I have to ask about the sunrise blessing. It's in the ocean. So
Yes,
you should expect to get wet, right? If you're coming to
absolutely.
And sign a waiver, right? You're like wave it, like Lopaka's going to hand out the clipboard,
Right.
with the
It's
waivers.
the Tom Selleck waiver. And like I said, the water is very shallow. The deepest is like about chest high. But the point of the pikai, or the cleansing, is to fully immerse yourself in the water. And when you come up, you just float on your back and symbolically let all of the waves wash off all that stuff, so you can start fresh. And, that's one of the great things about our culture, is that when people come to me with problems, personal problems, what have you, and I always tell them, so you've got this problem now, and that's fine. But the great thing about, our spiritual belief is, no matter what's going on in your life, once you determine to do so, you can start again from now. And so that's the whole point of this cleansing is, whatever you came with before, once we're done, you can start over again from right now, and in a way, take care of your personal stuff, but also help, with the success of the Paracon for the weekend.
Well, I love that. And, that makes me think about something I was thinking about. I was writing about something the other day, and I was like, how many, so Alice and I grew up Catholic. So obviously I feel guilty about even like talking to you guys because you feel guilty about everything. But
Right.
one of the prescriptions of Catholicism is obviously the original sin of Eve eating. First of all, Eve ate the apple, and we're all paying for it. And
Yeah.
so I in traditional Hawaiian religion, is there anything similar to original sin? Just wondering. I know it's not germane to the conversation.
A big question, Mike. Oh man.
Well, I mean, in certain situations, you pay for the sin of your father. Sometimes eye for an eye kind of thing, but there's no concept of original sin.
All right, well, I'm converting to Hawaiian.
Yeah, there you go.
Because we
And
have a ceremony called Ho'oponopono, which is a thing where the issue is discussed. There's ava, of course, and once that's all taken care of, there's an agreement that this thing will never be discussed again, and symbolically, it's put away. And like I said, just a minute ago,
Can you teach
you
me that
start from
ceremony
that
so I
point.
can do it with my wife? All right, once we do the ceremony, we're never going to talk about this again.
Well, my cousin's wife is going to be there, and I've been bugging her to do a presentation on this ceremony because it's life changing, and all of it starts from you. You learn not to blame external circumstances, because if you go in a mirror and point, that's the problem. It's pointing right back at you.
And if you're listening right now and you're looking for a new perspective, I mean, this is it. Going to Hawaii Paracon. I mean, you want to go to Hawaii. You love the paranormal. And then there's this life-changing spiritual element as well that's authentic. It's not a touristy thing. You're going to learn from traditional Hawaiians.
Well, we should talk about some of the speakers that you can see and maybe like what they're going to bring to the table at the Paracon. And so, I mean, some people like Allison, you're not a native Hawaiian.
Nope. As much as
right?
I'd like to be.
You're just a little bit whiter than Casper.
I'm just a little Polish girl.
Not yet.
Right. Right. But like some of these other guys, like Dave
Kahu
Wallace.
Dude,
Yeah,
are
Kahu
you?
Dave. Explain what Kahu means for.
And how do I get the name Kahu Mike? How do you do it?
Well, it's weird because I just clicked onto his picture and Mike said, "How about Kahu Dave?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got this. Yeah, we got the podcast gestalt happening here. Use it, post it, make a T-shirt out of it. The great thing about Kahu Dave, and Kahu means sort of like you're a guardian. And the really cool thing about Kahu Dave is he grew up on the island of Molokai, and the kahuna on Molokai had a skill where they could leave their body and go to other places and visit, and bring back specific details of what happened at that moment. But they also could leave their body and travel to the future. And so the kahuna on Molokai, when they gave prophecies to their chiefs and the chiefs listened, it would benefit them. And so what's really karmic about Kahu Dave is he's one of these master proponents of remote viewing, as we know it today. And he's just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And so he's going to do one presentation on the regular remote viewing, and then he's going to have a breakout workshop on the real kahuna style remote viewing.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting.
Can you explain what the word kahuna to everybody? Because I never knew what it meant until there was a podcast right when podcasting came out, called like Jedi Training or something like that. And it was by a Hawaiian guy who lived in Hawaii, and he was studying the huna himself.
Oh boy.
And so as he was going through like huna training and learning more about it, he was podcasting about it. So that's when I finally learned what the word kahuna means and what huna was in general. So for people unfamiliar with that, could you kind of give a quick intro?
Yeah. So not to burst anyone's bubble, but huna is not Hawaiian. It was a practice started somewhere in the midst of Southern California, and that's that.
Of course it did.
The word kahuna means master. It means that you've mastered a certain craft, and that you are the person to go see about it, the person to learn about it. And so Dave is definitely a kahuna of what we now know as remote viewing, and just a great healer, a gentleman. And I guarantee you, once you're in his presence, he'll be completely relaxed. And if you're looking at his picture right now on the Hawaii Paracon website, that's not what we've come to know as the face or the attitude of a kahuna. I mean, he's got a nice aloha shirt, kukuina lei. He's got a smile. We've come to know the kahuna as the guy from that movie Bird in Paradise who has to throw the girl, Deborah Paget, into the volcano.
Well, she did deserve it.
Yeah. I mean, with Louis Jardin, yeah, she should be thrown into a volcano. But it turns out the guy who plays the kahuna in the movie's Italian.
Oh, man.
I mean,
not that again.
They did a great job of picking people of completely different ethnicities for. I was actually just thinking about this because one of our friends who we met at the Michigan Paracon, like his cousin is this 1960s like bit actor, but he's a character actor you would completely recognize because he's like he's like a Klingon on Star Trek. He's an Indian in every like 1960s cowboy movie,
right?
And yet he's Greek.
Yep.
Like there's plenty of Indians to pick from, and they're like, well, a Greek guy looks Indian, and he's cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that Hollywood, has that authenticity, and I mean they're getting a little bit better now, but yeah, that's why that's one of the reasons why Hawaii Paracon is so special, because it's one of the few Paracons. There's only one other one in the States that I know about that is organized by an indigenous person. And there's just not enough Native voices in the paranormal, in my opinion anyway. So, I mean, that's a reason to come to Hawaii Paracon. If you want the real deal, here it is.
Well, the thing is, we're not trying to make a political statement. All it is, maybe people not from Hawaii might appreciate, the Hawaiian view of the paranormal.
Yeah, the real Hawaiian view.
You mean the Idol on Brady Bunch wasn't the real Hawaii Paranormal?
Look, since we're on a subject, I'll tell you what. When that episode came out, my mom was watching it with us, and she looked at us. She says, "You see that tiki?" She said, "You'll find that kind of tiki in those stores in Waikiki. And it has the jeweled eyes in it and everything." And she says, "And if you guys ever come home with one of those, I'll beat your butt so bad." Apparently, when you had one of those things, you did rituals to feed them and imbue them. And so my mom said, if you're not going to do that with those kinds of tikis, then don't bring it home.
Oh my God, it's like a pet.
Yeah. So she said, and once you stop, worshiping it and stop feeding it, the thing you put into it is now going to take something out of you.
Yeah. So it's not something to be messed with.
What? That's like a turnaround to it's what started out as something nice, turns around to something evil. It's like if you get a My Little, like a My Little Pony or something like that, and you're like,
not everybody out there is a brony, Mike.
When you stop petting the mane of My Little Pony, he'll make you pay.
Yeah.
Whatever you put into it, he'll take out of you. I love it. That's like a horror movie poster.
It's like the mafia.
So, what is the difference? I still don't really understand the difference between kahu and kahuna. Can you explain that?
So, Mike and Allison, if our family guardian is the shark, and the three of us have been assigned to be its caretaker, its guardian, we are the kahu of that shark god. We take care of it, we feed it, and the same thing if I have an idol that's been handed down to me that's been used to pray people to death, I'm the kahu of it. I'm the guardian, I'm the caretaker until it gets passed on. The kahuna is the master of the essence of that tiki image, that shark god. The kahuna is the one who knows the prayers, how to call it, how to put it to sleep, how to transfigure it into its human form. So he's the master of the overall ritual concerning, that thing. We're just the guardians of it.
Ah, I see.
I love that. And I love the similarities then. It comes to, so let's just say, majority of the listeners to the podcast were raised Christian maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, all right, well, a household god or whatever. Well, yeah, but it's, is that different than, you go to any grocery store in Madison here, and there's going to be a whole row with religious icon candles.
Yeah.
That, people go in and they burn, the candles when they want something to happen, or the crosses we put on our walls and things like that. So when you think about the same kind of thing, like if a cross drops off your wall, you're like, oh, I better pick that up. Like
Yeah.
like Jesus is on the floor,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And so that idea that something of a religious nature or of a spiritual nature you keep in your house, a physical object as a reminder of it, or something with which helps you focus your energy towards it, and then you treat
Right.
that with respect and reverence, like you would the actual, the actual spiritual thing you're thinking of.
Well, the difference is, if you're the caretaker of the tiki or the shark god, um, and somebody's walking through the house and they accidentally knock that thing over, the consequence is not on that person, even though they're the ones that knocked it over. The consequence is on you, the guardian or the caretaker. So
Oh.
whatever is the result of that is going to come to you.
Don't put it by your toddler.
Yeah.
No, so I'm really excited to hear about Kahu Dave and his presentations, because I know that last year he did, the remote viewing protocols that were taught in government circles. And then it's
Yeah.
going to be really exciting to also now see the other side of it, to see the traditional Hawaiian approach to remote viewing, because it must be very different.
It's very different. In some traditions, Kahuna were able to not only remote view, but in certain circumstances, they could manifest themselves. And so a few years back, I was doing a ghost tour that started from the palace, and we ended up in a cave on the west side. And I asked Kahu Dave, could you do me a favor and remote view this tour? And if anything happens, just send me a text. And so we're in the palace. We're going into the old archives building, and right away I get a text, and he says a palace guard is watching over this group, and there's a couple of people he's not happy with. And I said, okay. And he says, yeah, I'll have more. And so now we're in the room doing the thing, and he sends me another text. He says, there's 2 military men on this tour. They're specialists in their field, but the palace guard is not happy with them because they're not admitting to themselves what they're seeing right at this moment. I said, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "What are they seeing?" And Kahu Dave sends a text back and says, "Well, they're seeing other people of Hawaiian personage and royalty, and these 2 men are not Hawaiian themselves, so they're kind of freaking out."
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we get to the cave, and before I lose the signal, Dave sends another text and says, "Good luck. It's going to be active."
Oh man.
And so that's when these 2 pictures were taken. You see the 2 pictures from the cave, Allison.
Yeah, I believe so. But we should definitely put them in the show notes for this episode.
Oh yeah. No, I'd love to.
Right.
Hawaii is a place of magic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You really, I don't want to harp on it too much, because I don't want it to sound artificial. I'm sincere when I say that when I'm there, I feel like anything could happen. I mean, it's different than, Mike and I are, we both do ghost tours, and, we're both into the paranormal. But when you go to Hawaii, there's something different. There's a sense of history, of place. It's like here in Milwaukee, I mean, very much with, the haunted history tour I started, it's like I wanted to resuscitate that. I wanted to bring that back to people, because in this culture, the dominant culture is so removed from anything spiritual, or even connections with ancestors. And when you go to Hawaii, I just felt that that's still alive there. It doesn't need to be resuscitated. You can still feel it in the air. And that was my experience there in Hawaii, as you feel something very, very different, and very alive. It's a vibrant place, both in plant life and in spirituality. And last year too, I really enjoyed the presentations by Kali'i and Lane, because I didn't realize that the traditional Hawaiian tattoos that you see on popular Hawaiian stars like Aquaman, for example, Jason Momoa.
Does
I
the
didn't
Rock, does
really,
the
really.
Rock have traditional Hawaiian tattoos too?
Oh, I think
No,
he went.
they're Samoan.
Oh, there's Samoan.
Okay.
Okay. So, but like Lane was talking about, not Hawaiian tattoos, but he was talking about
Filipino looks like.
Filipino tattoos and their cultural and spiritual significance. And Kali'i was talking about Hawaiian tattoos and their spiritual power as well. So, I mean, it was really something I had never heard before. So,
And they're coming back.
Yeah, they're coming
this year.
back.
So they're both Kala'i and
Kali'i.
Lane are both coming back. And the thing is, let's all go to Hawaii and get some ink, right?
Oh yeah. Well, this year, Kaylee and Lane are going to do actual tattooing
Wow.
as well. So this year it's not just the lecture, but there's going to be a room I think they're going to use where everybody can come in, see an actual traditional Hawaiian tattoo happening on an actual real life person.
And so, is there any?
Might be you, Alex.
I was just gonna say, who's that person?
You can get some ink, Allison. We can.
I did promise Lopaka that one of these times I'm gonna get some ink when the time is right.
Yeah, totally up to you.
So, when we think about tattoos, is there anything specifically about Hawaiian tattooing that it represents something spiritual? I mean, because tattoos are a very personal thing, but I think the problem is, for me at least, when I think about tattooing in the Pacific Ocean, I think about Queequeg or whatever.
Yeah, is that crazy?
Something with like tattoos over the face and over the body as some kind of was it melon? I can't remember where Queequeg is from, but some kind of Pacific Island warrior. And is that near at all where Hawaii is on the spectrum of tats, or or the spiritual aspect of it for warriors and stuff, or what kind of is a little bit of the tradition of it?
There are tattoos that represent your ancestors, your immediate family, your guardians, your warrior heritage, your chiefly heritage. And there are some tattoos that represent your aumakua, your spiritual guardians, and the primary gods. But each tattoo is significant or personal to each person. So no one tattoo is the same tattoo that represents an overall statement. If that makes any sense.
No, it does, and that's the thing too, because you think about like all my Marine friends, and they all have a USMC tattoo, right? Like if they served in the Marines, if they ever went overseas or were deployed, I don't know any that do not have a tattoo of the Marine Corps. So that would be the example of you're just putting a symbol on your arm or something you did, and it's something that it may be personal and to you, but it's more of like it represents me as part of a group versus this is my journey.
Well, there's that too. So if let's say you go to see Kili'i, who's, by the way, the first titled kahuna of traditional Hawaiian tattooing in 200 years.
Nice.
What you get will be specific to yourself. And so Kili'i will say, so this tattoo represents this journey you're on now. But then he'll say, and when that journey is complete, you'll come back and get another one.
Oh, awesome. So you guys are going to have like a tats room.
Yeah.
That's pretty hot. Okay, so who's somebody you guys have going on this year that you haven't had in the past, and you're excited about the kind of the kind of perspective that they can bring to the convention?
Well, I'm going to let Allison take this one. We're talking about Lloyd Arbach.
Yeah, well, Lloyd is our keynote speaker this year, and he is just an amazing university-trained parapsychologist who's written so many books about the paranormal and parapsychology, and so I'm excited to have him come. I've seen him speak before, just years and years ago as it would happen at the Haunted America conference in Alton, Illinois. He was a speaker there. Oh man, I don't know, at least a decade ago, if not more.
Oh, a decade ago, you were only like 24, right?
Yeah, Mike. I'm liking you more than ever before right now.
Thank you.
but yeah, so at least a decade ago, he was a speaker there, and I just remember how friendly he was, and we went on a ghost tour together after the speaking was done, and he had a deck of playing cards, and he was doing card tricks for us. He was really a fun person. So I'm really excited to hear him speak. And one of the things that he does that many investigators don't do is he really takes findings from parapsychology and applies it in the field of the paranormal. It seems like with all the TV shows and everything, we're really getting separated from the science of parapsychology, and that doesn't make sense because
Right, a world where the SLS camera exists,
yeah.
makes me feel like we need to go back to. I'd rather have William James work on something.
Right, or Eleanor Sedgwick, right? Where
Right.
where they're really, more in touch with the people and more in touch with scientific protocols. Those are important to follow too. So he can bring the science back to the paranormal investigation, and so that's why I'm so excited about him being there. And I'm also excited about the class that he's teaching. The workshop is seems really really fun. It's about spoon bending, and I did go to a similar class at Camp Wanawak, which is located here in Wisconsin. It's only it's one of three spiritualist camps that still exist in the United States. So that was really fun, but I did not learn to bend a spoon, not at all.
Not
But
Uri
I was
Geller
able.
style,
What was that?
like Uri Geller.
No, not yeah. I couldn't even approach it, but I was able to balance the spoon on my nose, so I think that's worth something.
Yeah, that's not really paranormal. All you gotta do is lick the spoon. I think my daughter did that. My 3-year-old daughter did it today, and she's definitely not paranormal.
Oh
Except
man,
paranormally naughty.
yes, that's right.
Um, I tell you though, I mean, Lloyd's been on the show before, and he's one of my personal parapsychological heroes
Yeah,
because
wasn't he like episode 27, like right in the
yeah,
beginning?
we had. I mean, Lloyd right away because I read his book ESP Poltergeists. Oh no, I can't remember. It's the Parapsychologist's Hand, ESP Poltergeist and Hauntings, the Parapsychologist's Handbook, and it just goes into so many things like how you would scientifically research a haunting, how you would go and look for something instead of just jumping to the conclusions of, oh, this is a demon. All right, then I guess you're all damned. Gotta go. That kind of thing, like the investigation from a scientific perspective, and just a fascinating character. And I mean, you might be able to go on a ghost tour and a hunt with Lloyd at the Hawaii Paracon, and what a special experience that would be. So, that's going to be awesome. And he really is a coup. I think he's going to be someone awesome to listen to and talk to. Real quick, Allison, I know we're already getting on in time here, but I want to make sure we talk about this story that you just told at Haunted America last week. And
Oh
I don't
yeah.
hear if Lopaka knows anything about it, because this particular story is something that people talked about for the next couple of days and happened at Hawaii Paracon. And, I was talking to people like, what's your favorite presentation? And they're like, well, I really liked when that Allison girl was talking about the weird crap she saw in Hawaii. And
Somebody said it just like that. Great.
well,
Oh
we
my
were
God.
we were in Southern Illinois. So yes, they did. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it wasn't some kind of story. So let's hear that again. And this is the kind of stuff that you might encounter if you visit the islands.
Well, when something weird happens, I think you don't even know what it is at first. You don't really know how to wrap your head around it. And I'm not saying I know for sure this was paranormal, but it was unusual. And not only I experienced it, which is the special thing about it. So, at the first night of the Paracon last year was just for speakers. We had a awa ceremony at Kali'i's house, and it was just spectacular. And then on the way home, we're feeling a little tired. It's about 1 a.m. in the morning, And we're driving down the road in La Ling's convertible. And it's a beautiful, beautiful Hawaiian night. So we're not feeling any trepidation.
That's our cousin who
Yes.
lives in Hawaii.
That's right, La Ling, and she's originally from Guam. And anyway, she's very generous. When I come to Hawaii, I get to stay with them, and they let me use their convertible and their other car, and so it's awesome. So that's very kind of them. But anyway, so we're in. I'm just describing it to make it clear that there is no trepidation. We're feeling really relaxed after the Ava, and we're going down the road in this convertible, and it's a perfect Hawaiian night. Like it is like probably every night, just that perfect, like for you in the Midwest, that perfect like summer night where it's not too hot, not too cool. It's just perfect. And, there's a soft breeze blowing. Anyway, so we're going down the road with the top down in our convertible. And then at the side of the road, both of us, my husband and I, my husband's driving, we noticed this woman at the side of the road. And
it's the yoga instructor that was gone for 16 days.
No, that was in Maui. So we're on Oahu. And so we see this woman at the side of the road, and she looked like I just saw her back. So she looked like a young woman, fairly long, like sandy, I would say blonde hair, like a dishwater blonde. And so she's standing there at the side of the road, and she's wearing like a summer dress with spaghetti straps. As I remember, it was like white with like blue stripes or something like that.
We also have sunspot T-shirts with spaghetti
seersucker
straps. I'll have a link in the show notes.
Okay, good. The spaghetti straps, that's an important detail.
Paranormal shirt.
So anyway, she's standing there, but as we're driving towards her, I laugh because she's standing completely still. Completely. Like a mannequin or something. But she's posed in, I can't even describe it. It's like, I laughed because it was like, all those horror movies of late where you see the ghost and, kind of like in The Ring where the movement is like herky-jerky or something like that. Well, take a freeze frame of like the ghost from The Ring, walking and then just hold it there. I mean, that's what it was. Like this pose was so resonant about it that it made me laugh. Like, I'm like, that can't be real. What is that? That's a woman. I mean, what is she doing? She's perfectly still. And then we were past her. And then I was like, Scott, we got to go back. Because Scott was like, what was that? We both noticed that something not usual happened right there. And I'm like, you got to go back, Scott. And we didn't go back. And that's the thing. Like, if you know me, sad to say, I'm kind of a harpy. And I don't mean any offense, but
totally
we needed to go back, right? And usually when I want something, I just like bulldog it till I get it, right? And I just let it go. So that is not like my personality. A lot of times I've found when people tell me about their extraordinary experiences, they're like, why did I react that way? That's not consistent with my personality. And here was something that happened to me that was like that. And again, even when we saw that, even though it was so inexplicably weird, we weren't frightened, but I don't know why I wasn't like, I didn't like keep on Scott until he turned around. But sad to say, I didn't. And we just kept driving on. We went back to La Ling's house and went to bed. But the next day, when we're prepping just before the conference is about to start, all of us, all the speakers are in the room, Lopaka and Lane and Kali'i was there, but he didn't have a response to this because he was at his house. So he wasn't on the road seeing this whatever it was. But I just remember saying, hey guys, last night, did you see that lady? Or did you see that girl? That was it. I didn't like elaborate. I didn't tell the story. Like I just told the story. I'm like, hey, did you see that girl? And I didn't even say on the side of the road or whatever. I just said, did you see that girl? And both Lopaka and Lane knew exactly what I was talking about. And the exciting thing is that Lane, he came a little bit late to the ceremony. It was like around 10:30 or something like that. So he and his friend saw her on the way in, and this was around 10 o'clock. And then we saw her on the way out, which is like 1 a.m. So
Boy,
who's going to
she's
stay out
so
there
slow.
for 4 hours? Even if you're like some kind of performance artist. Now, Lopaka, you described what you saw, and could you do that right now? Describe what you saw and when.
Oh, could you remind me again? The thing was we were late because I just got done doing a ghost tour, and Lane's friend Dave was driving us in the SUV, and we're very nice people, and Dave was driving really slow. So we had to get on Dave's case to, put the pedal to the metal because we got to be there. And so I was still in that state of mind when we were going to Kaylee's house. And
Okay, so you were in the same car with Lane.
yes,
Okay, so it had to be around 10 something.
around 10. And God, I got to jog my memory now. But I remember seeing someone walking on the side of the road dressed in white. I think I remember white hairish, but I specifically remember blood.
Yeah, what you told me is, so you saw this woman at the side of the road, but you saw her from a different perspective than I did. We were coming up on her from behind. I just saw her back, and you saw her front, and you said that you saw blood running down her arms.
Yes. Yeah.
And so my question is, why did you call 911? Not to put you on the spot or anything like that.
I just figured it was initially my thought was it was some crackhead, because meth users are known to frequent that area, especially the beach, and you see them running around the road, rolling around on the road naked, doing crazy stuff. And so when I saw her, I'm like, oh, okay, it's another crackhead. But here's the thing. We're approaching the turn to Kaylee's house, and I kind of just casually turn around to look, and she's not there.
Oh man. And now she's presenting Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Hawaii Paracon 2019.
Well, we would love that. So you actually saw her, and then she was all of a sudden, when you look back, she was completely gone. And the place where it was, I mean, it's not like there's deep cover.
No.
Where she could be out of sight so quickly like that.
No. And that's the famous Makaha Beach. It's a famous surf spot around the world. But it's also got a spiritual history behind it, because that's where the same shark god who lives in the cave out in Makua,
the one that we visited,
at that cave, is the same one that sort of likes to hang out on that beach in his human form. So who knows why she was bloody.
Oh man, she could have been that girl that gets it in the beginning of Jaws.
So that was the thing. I mean, that's why you're like, it's just a meth head. And then when you look back, she's disappeared completely.
Yeah.
you
And
probably got a ton of things in your mind. You got a convention to run. So you're like, all right, I'm not going to worry about some meth head at the side of the road when I got a convention to run.
No time for ghostly hitchhikers right now. Gotta go.
Right. Resurrection Mary, get lost. I'm busy talking about ghosts. Oh, wait. She's gone.
That is a ghost.
That's the thing. The upstairs parking lot where we're having the Paracon at Paradise Park.
Right.
And I'll make this quick. I took a 3-person ghost tour up there, and the walkway was open. We went up to the restaurant. The gate was down. So as I'm explaining the history of the hauntings in that restaurant, this huge table in the lobby, like from my peripheral, I see it like float and drop. And so I looked at these guys. I said, "Did you say that?" And they're like, "We didn't want to say anything." I'm like, "Oh my God!" And then the lobby light goes on.
Oh,
it's a motion detector light.
Wow.
That fills the whole lobby, but none of us are moving. We're not in front of the light. And then it goes off, and not less than 5 feet away from the lobby is the door that goes into the kitchen. They have that window on the door. So all the lights in the kitchen go on. At that point, I call Napua, and Napua, the owner
Yeah, Auntie
of the place.
Napua.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I call her. I said, "Oh, is anybody in the kitchen?" She goes, "No, why?" I said, "The lights are going on and off." I said, "The motion detector light went off. We're nowhere near it, and that freaking table floated in the air 3 times." And she said to me, "My daughter and her friend were just up there locking the back gate, so no one could get into the back of the kitchen, to the kitchen through the back." She said they come running down here because they can hear, that the sound of the bell on the bicycle.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they could hear that from inside the kitchen, like right on the other side of the door. Ring, 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 ring.
And this place, Paradise Park, is what is the falls there? Manoa Falls? Did I say it right?
Manoa Falls.
And
Yeah.
it's just this. It is Paradise Park. I mean, when you go for a hike in Paradise, it's right there at Paradise Park, and you're gonna see things that you feel is just like right out of Jurassic Park.
Well, I told Lloyd about it, and he said, and I quote, very interesting. Maybe we should do an investigation when we get there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you
Yeah.
guys, if you want to go to the Hawaii Paracon, first of all, we're just less than a month away, and so this is the time where you can find like last minute tickets to places. And so you're going to want to check out and see if you can get a last minute ticket to Hawaii if you're not confirmed yet, or if you've always wanted to go to Hawaii, this is the time to go because number one, the VIP experience is $150, and that's cheap. Like for the dinner on Friday, for the ghost tour on Saturday, for all the lectures, for everything, you can get the entire party for $150 to get in.
And airfare, as you said, can be surprisingly affordable. Like you think just the opposite, that planning way ahead is a great idea, but really it's not. You can get those last minute deals.
And also the thing,
especially with the new airlines we got here.
What happens is that you have about 3 weeks before your actual travel date, and that's when prices jump. But the thing is, at the same time, if you're looking within the week of the date, then prices drop because we need to fill some seats. Either way, this is a great time for a last minute shot to the Hawaii Paracon. If you haven't thought about it yet, this might be your time to think about it. And this looks like
it's on your bucket list. It is.
This is a great year to go, and you're going to have great people at the convention. So anyway, we're just encouraging everybody to go Hawaii Paracon to see Lopaka and hear these amazing stories in person. And Allison's going to tell you some stories. Lloyd Auerbach's going to tell you some cool stuff and help you out with some parapsychology. You're going to get ink for the first time. Like if you've never had a tattoo before, they're going to take you in a room and they're going to ink you up. Hawaii Paracon, it is Friday, July 19th to Sunday, July 21st.
And it's going to change your life.
And if I didn't have shows this weekend and they weren't booked for like a year out or whatever, I would be there. And so hopefully next year I will be there bathing in the cleansing waters of the Pacific Ocean, right?
Well, you know what?
Partying with you guys in person.
Yeah. And you know what, Allison, it's going to start doing some work. So maybe we'll be able to bring you out here.
Yep.
You could be the hype guy.
Right.
I'm a full-time weirdo now, so anything can happen.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to, once again, we want to thank Lopaka and the Mysteries of Hawaii for joining us on the podcast and being very generous with his incredible knowledge and stories. And if people, let's say they can't make it to the Hawaii Paracon, but they're going to go to Hawaii sometime. And if you're listening to this podcast, you want to take the ghost tour. I mean, in fact, Wendy took the ghost tour with you and she came out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And it's such a magical place. That Wendy and her fiance also got engaged out there. Not during the ghost tour.
That would have been
Here's
great.
the dead people. Will you marry me? No. But
till death do us part.
But like at a sacred Hawaiian spot. And so the thing is, Scott, Wendy's fiance and a contributor to the podcast, he felt that power that he wanted to share in a place that he thought was magical. And we want you guys to find that magic as well. And so if people want to take a ghost tour with you, Lopaka, where can they do that?
They can do that at mysteries-of-hawaii.com.
Awesome. And you'll be able to find the links to those in our show notes at othersidepodcast.com/254.
Yes. And Hawaii Paracon is at hawaiiparacon.com.
Well, that's easy to remember, isn't
You guys
it?
are up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Lopaka. You are still brilliant, and I wish you just the best with Hawaii Paracon 2019.
Always the same for you, brother.
Mahalo.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Wendy. When you think about Hawaii, how does it make you feel?
Oh, gosh, it makes me feel so warm and joyful and happy.
Well, and that's not unusual because Hawaii is the happiest state in America, according to a survey by Wallet Hub.
Wait, so Disney was lying when they said they were the happiest place on Earth? Oh, wait, that's on Earth.
Yes, so that maybe Disney is the happiest place on Earth. But technically, according to Wallet Hub, the happiest city on Earth, or at least in the U.S., is Plano, Texas.
Oh, interesting.
And they rank things on income and employment, community and environment, and emotional and physical well-being.
Okay.
And Madison shows up third.
All right.
So our city is the third happiest city in the United States. But Wisconsin does not fare so well.
Uh-oh.
Yes, Wisconsin is
no.
in the top 20. We're the 11th happiest state. But the number
That's
one...
surprising, actually.
I was going to say most of the people I know in Wisconsin, like especially between November and April, nobody happy.
Yeah, they're just trying to escape.
So whatever score Wallet Hub gave Wisconsin, you have to cut it in half because that's the only like the habitable part of the year. So it can only be so happy when
Right.
you're in January. Here. Anyway, Hawaii, number 1 for emotional and physical well-being, and number 4 for community environment.
Wow, fantastic.
Right. So they really bring it home there that Hawaii is the happiest state, according to Wallet Hub.
And hey, if Wallet Hub says it's so.
Right. I mean, I would say Madison's a pretty happy place. I mean, as long as you don't talk about politics, everybody here is pretty happy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, we thought that was fun and thought since this episode's about Hawaii and we're talking about the Hawaii Paracon, why not bring out our happiest song, Wendy?
Yay.
And I can't believe it's been almost 5 years we haven't had this one on the podcast yet.
That's crazy.
So this one's very simple. Here's Sunspot with the happy song. Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side. You know what else makes me happy, Wendy?
What makes you happy, Mike?
Our Patreon community.
Oh, they make me happy too.
Right, because Patreons are the coolest people we know. That's the community of people who are so into the See You on the Other Side podcast that they're willing to give a couple of bucks every month in order to keep the podcast going, keep the servers up, and keep the music flowing.
Yeah, exactly. I love our hangouts we have every month. It's so fun seeing our friends from everywhere all around, our interesting and paranormally intrigued friends.
Now, if you would like to be a See You on the Other Side Sunspot Patreon, it's really easy to do. You just go on the World Wide Web and you get on your internet browser and you type in http:// www.othersidepodcast.com/donate. If you do that, if you listen to those instructions very carefully, you'll get to the place where you can become part of our Patreon community. We like sending the MP3s as soon as they come out of the songs because we don't make them available for download until they actually become, go onto one of our albums.
Right.
So the Patreons get songs, we have a hangout, we have a discussion group, and we want to do more stuff with you. So as the community gets bigger, we can do more and more stuff.
We've got ideas.
We got lots of ideas. We just need the Patreons to make it happen. And you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Where is that, Wendy?
The happiest place on the web, Mike.
Yes.
Is at othersidepodcast.com/donate.
That's right. So we will see you there after we give a shout out to our man, Dr. Ned. Now,
Ned!
Dr. Ned's at the level of the Patreon where he gets a shout out in every single episode. One of these days, Ned, we will party with you in Hawaii.
Oh gosh, would that ever be great?
That would be pretty good. That sounds like the kind of road trip. Well, I guess it'd be more than a road trip, but that's the kind of road trip that we're into. But either way, Ned, thank you so much for your support, and all of our Patreons, thank you for your support because we couldn't do it without you.
Yes, thank you.
When you stop petting the mane of My Little Pony, he'll make you pay.